Sure. We have Cristina Luis this month to talk to us about beginner course design. As usual, in case you missed the talk about it a couple minutes ago, this forum is being recorded. So, to the extent you don't like being recorded, avoid showing your face or speaking or whatever. Do what you need to do. If you want to put comments into the text chat, you can do that at any time. If you want to ask a question, please save it until Cristina says she's open to taking questions, either in the middle of her discussion, her presentation, or at the end. With that, Cristina, over to you.
Cristina, you're
You're
muted.
muted, Cristina.
Thanks. Okay. I couldn't do it. Couldn't unmute with this mouse. Right. This is a topic that I have that I am pretty passionate about, and it turns out that I had a lot more to say when I was making the presentation than I realized. So we may not get through everything, but that's okay, as long as we get through some of it and learn things. So this is going to be all about beginner courses of different types. So here we go. This is what I hope to get. Well, this is what we might get through today. Basically, why are we doing this? Why is this important? Some basic designs and principles, or goals and principles. We'll talk about competition courses, and that's the meat of the discussion: white courses and yellow courses at national ranking events, and then considerations for local courses and youth training and adult beginners, pretty briefly. So, whoa. So why? Well, because really good beginner courses spark joy. What we're trying to do is create lifelong orienteers, and early success helps, right? Early frustration can lose us an orienteer for life. So we want to make sure that beginner courses are appropriate, right? And those appropriate courses, white and yellow, they're meant to be the easiest ones, but designing them can actually be quite difficult. There are some maps where you can literally just throw darts and design a cool advanced course, but that is never the case for white and yellow. You really have to think about what you're doing. You may have to think about where you're going to, what part of the map you're going to use, where you're going to start. A lot of that's really dependent on white and yellow. So they take a lot of thought. And this one is a big one. Experienced orienteers. If you're setting courses, you've been doing this for a while, at least a few years, maybe decades. You are doing advanced courses. You may not remember what it was like to be a beginner. I started orienteering at 20, so I was never a child doing white courses. And we look at a map and we're fluent. It makes sense to us as soon as we see it. But 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, or even adult beginners, it's just a bunch of colors to them. And we have to sort of learn to think with their eyes and their brain, and give them a course that they will find the right level of challenging. So often we hear people say like, "Oh, I thought the white course was too boring, so I did this," and it's like that's not really possible. Like courses are properly designed course might look boring, probably will to an advanced orienteer, but to someone who's new or a child, running and punching controls on your own is this great adventure, and it will be joyful as long as it's not frustrating. And I've seen over the years, I wouldn't say like this is super common, but often you see at NREs a white or yellow course that's just too hard, or a yellow course is too easy. See that too. So that's why we're doing this. So who am I to talk about beginner courses? I get most of my inspiration from having attended a Norwegian Orienteering Federation Level 1 coaching course. It's a pretty comprehensive course. It's focused just on youth training. It's something like 40 hours of online modules and then 2 full weekends of activities. And they really emphasize how to set courses for kids and activities for kids, and to really see how they work. I used that experience in the Level 1 coaching course to be one of the youth coaches in my club in Norway. We had kids from 8 to 12. I've also worked for Navigation Games, delivering youth programming in schools and after-school programs, and done a bunch of course setting here in Arizona and in Norway. All that said, I have just one view. I see plenty of experienced course setters on this call. I'm sure there will be some differing opinions about some of the things here, and that's fine. I've got some things up just so we can discuss it. All right, what are we up to now? All right, design goals for youth courses just in general. You want to give kids a feeling of accomplishment and mastery. Accomplishment meaning you want it to be a course they can finish, and mastery being that they've used some skills. Most of these skills are just, especially with white courses, it's just the mechanics, the basic mechanics of orienteering. Orienting the map, going in a direction, and punching controls. That and running, right? We want to get kids used to moving fast. Running on trails, maybe they get to run, in the woods a little along a fence line or, in a stream bed or something, especially in the yellow. So that's what we're working on, these basic mechanics. I think, a lot of times as adults, we forget that these things you have to learn. You have to learn to orient the map every time you get to a decision point. How you check the code and punch the control, what the finish chute looks like. All these things are new to a new orienteer. And running, many kids run on trails, right? So all these things are new and exciting, and we want to get them to practice it, and they will have fun doing it. So you want to have them, leave them smiling. All right, so those are kind of our goals. These, by the way, oh gosh. These kids in this photo, these are the participants in the Youth on Orienteering Club's inaugural youth program that we had in the fall. They actually did not use compasses for the 6-week program at all. This was taken at the end of the 6th session. I pulled out compasses to show them what they were like, and they were all really excited about holding compasses. So they have compasses in their hands. But they're holding maps of courses that they ran. They are smiling. They loved it. And they were doing white and yellow stuff for 6 weeks. Okay, basic principles. Just like with advanced courses, with white and yellow courses, the important part is the leg, right? Everything that comes between the controls. Control placement is also important. On white and yellow, it's both the feature and the actual physical control plane is very important, but it's still the part in between that is the defining feature. You're talking about legs being white level, not controls. Sometimes you hear people talk about that control is a white control. Well, it really depends. It's not really a control that is used on a white course could also be used on a different course, like a yellow. It's the leg that determines whether it is a white course has white legs, not white controls. Same with yellow. In beginner courses, there is an appropriate amount of difficulty. When you get to yellow, you do want to, make it that difficult. But if in doubt, it's probably better to make it a little easier. Better to have someone, I don't think a kid's going to come back and complain that it's too easy. They might say, oh, that was easy, and then they look at it a little further and they realize that they actually, it ran around and they did 2,000 extra meters. But better that it's a little easier and some of those kids think it was a little easy than have a leg that makes a bunch of kids DNF. I think I have this in a couple places, but just in general, don't be afraid with kids and beginners to use bigger scales. Even as adults for our trainings, sometimes we just use 1 to page size. So you just basically fill the page with whatever it is your course is, because if you're reading everything that's on the map, it doesn't really matter what the scale is. All right, now from here on out, as I start talking about white and yellow, if you have a question about something or an opinion you'd like to share, go ahead and hit the hand raise button. Or if you can't figure out how that works, you could just be like, hey, I have a question. And I will entertain. I don't want to just be talking nonstop through all this. So we get started with looking at competition courses. Ooh, God. I think my mouse scrolling actually changes the slides. I need to learn how to use these things. All right. So yeah, for sure, you're going to say to me that there are guidelines. Like, why do I have to tell you these things? And there are guidelines. This chart is from a local course setting guide that is available on OUSA's website, and a lot of clubs have it. It's a little out of date, but it is often the first place people go, and it's a 2-page document. I don't know if I can open it up here. It's got a chart with all the courses, and then it has some basic guidelines for each of the courses. And this is actually a place that a lot of local course setters start. It's not actually necessarily an NRE guide, but it's out there. And also the rules have like a tiny little bit. In fact, the winning times, if you look in the rules for like classic, are shorter than what this guide has, right? We're looking at 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And I think that's probably the way that most people expect it when they go to an NRE, is that they're a little on the shorter side, and which means that these might be shorter here. And also these numbers are really small. There's no way you're going to set an appropriate white course that's 2K with only 4 controls. That's 500 meters per leg. So yeah, this is out there. This doesn't tell you that much. It does have some pretty good little bullet points. So there are some guidelines. There are also a lot of other really good documents on the web, and I'll point them out as we go through. All right, so the white course. This is the competitive class, or the course for the competitive classes for 10 and under and 12 and under. So if you're lucky enough to have kids that young doing it, it's where people start. The skills we're looking to test, and I've talked about this a little earlier: orienting the map, following mostly trails, but also possibly other linear features, being able to make a decision at a decision point, like a trail junction, and some very basic map symbol knowledge. Like maybe they know blue is water, black is hard things, yellow is open, right? Kind of that level of symbol knowledge, and some basic linear symbols like trails and roads and fences. That's pretty much it. That's all we expect from white runners, right? So note the things that are not on that list. Definitely not contour reading, all right? Hopefully you get a chance to explain that the brown lines are about elevation, but they shouldn't be able to have to interpret them. They don't need to make route choice decisions. They definitely don't need to do any distance estimation, and they definitely don't need to know all the symbols. I kind of like this chart. This is a guide that the Norwegian Ornithology Federation puts out about symbols for beginners. So it's basically like, these are the basic things you need to know. It's still more than what you'd expect a white runner. Someone who's really first doing their first course might only know these, the top here, a road. And I left the Norwegian in because it's to emphasize the point that everyone on this call presumably just knows what all of these symbols are, right? And just looking at this is just the list of beginner symbols, and seeing that it's actually quite a few things, and that you can't expect somebody who's only orienteered a few times, especially a child, to know what all of these are, even though this is a subset. But you probably don't care that these are in Norwegian, because you know what all these symbols are. So I wouldn't expect, definitely no more than these symbols. But remember that beginners are only going to know these linear ones. Maybe they'll know a stone wall if they're in New England, or they'll know a fence if they're in Arizona, and they won't know the water symbols if they're in Arizona. So just a few of these symbols. Oh yeah, it's possible if you have a map with not that many contours on it, like a park map, and there's just the contour line going through, that a kid could confuse that with a road or trail, right? A single brown line. They might think like, where is that line? Why can't I see that trail? Right? Because they are similar enough. All right, considerations. Your start location is really important, and you might need a separate start from your advanced courses. Most of that is to make sure the most vulnerable time for a white or yellow competitor is the very beginning, getting started. I've seen a lot of people go the wrong, just complete opposite direction from the start, because they didn't come from anywhere, so they don't know which way they need to continue. So having a place where it's very clear which way you need to go from the start and you don't have the confusion of other people running in different directions is pretty important. So that might mean, if you're, especially for a bigger event for NRE, that you need a separate start for white and yellow. And also, it's really good if the first start is first control is visible from the start. So here's an example. These examples that are coming up now, I ripped straight from a British Orientation Federation guide. It's very nice guide on what their beginner courses. So here's an example, hopefully big enough for everyone, of a start location that isn't ideal. Right? And that's because it's a 3-way intersection and it looks like the start is actually in the middle of it. One way to fix this might be to move the start a little bit up this road so that they're headed straight out this way. That's acceptable white leg, but it's a little bit far. I don't think you'd be able to see the first control. So the solution they have in the guide is actually to put the start on this side road here and then have the first control be, so it's a very short leg, visible, presumably from the start, and something that we'll talk about in a second, putting the control, leading the orienteer the correct way. All right, so here is the decision point, because you have 2 choices. And the control is not only at the decision point, but on the side that you need to go. All right, so they've turned this into a very appropriate first leg. And I can see why a lot of people would look at this first one and they'd be like, well, that's easy. You just go down the trail or go down the road. And like, it's easy for us. But if you're a kid and you're standing in the middle of this place and people are starting other courses and some of them are running out in the woods this way, some are running around down this trail, some are running into the woods, you know, people are going all different directions. Everyone's watching you. You feel like everyone's watching you. Usually at the start, not everyone's watching you, but you might feel like it. And all of a sudden it becomes a non-trivial leg. And some kids will be just fine, but orient the map and the run. Some kids might end up in tears, and that's not joy. So move the start, show your first leg, lead them on to the next one. All right, I've been talking a lot. If anybody has anything, questions, comments, pipe up. So quiet. Oh yeah, so I do have, oh my gosh, I do have a link here to the planning articles there. There'll be links in the slides. I'll share the slides and we'll put the links in the YouTube so that you can check these things out yourselves. They're very good explanations. And our guidelines are not the same as necessarily the British or the Norwegian. They're not exactly the same, especially when it comes to yellow or in-between courses. Sometimes there are courses sort of in between white and yellow, but a lot of the ideas still hold. All right, time out. This is a good time when we're talking about the start to mention, this is a rule that I don't know everyone is fully aware of, but white and yellow competitors at national ranking events can see their map prior to their start. I think this is a fantastic practice. If you've ever done an exercise where you've like taken your map and you've like drawn your route in, what you're going to do, and you've like circled your attack point and you've gone out and you run with this like pre-planned thing, it's probably gone like way better for you. And the same is going to be true for kids, right? If they've sat down and they've talked about it with a parent or a coach or a friend, it's going to go a lot better. And in fact, in Norway, the practice is to post maps for their end courses, which are their like beginner courses, online a day or two before the event, so that families and coaches can download the maps and look at the courses. And that way the kid feels confident when they're going in. And now what they're practicing is they're really practicing that matching the terrain, map in the terrain, because they know what they're looking at now. And they have a plan to do it. So I think, yeah, so in the US, okay, we got a comment from Ted Good. Is there a concern about the parents seeing the map ahead of time? So yeah, their end courses in Norway are not competitive classes. Like if you're in, you're doing an open, it's because you're a total beginner. And then like the first course you do is like a slightly harder white. And I don't know that those are posted. Maybe they are. But no, there doesn't seem to be a concern about posting them in Norway. In the US, when I've seen this done, it's in the call-up line, or sometimes maybe you can get it when you check in, right, in the morning, so you get a little bit more time with it. But yeah, how much ahead of time? Yeah, the rule doesn't say. I don't know if there's anyone here who's more familiar. John Torrance, we have the VP of competition. I don't know if he can answer.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not that conversant with the details of the rules.
Yeah. Mike, do you have an answer for that?
One comment, the rule was written, it says they may be given the map. It doesn't
Right.
actually require NREs to do that. And one thing that I
Correct.
wish NREs would do is publicize in advance whether they're going to do it or not. Because when I bring kids, they don't know if they're going to get a chance to look at the map or not a lot of times until they're right up to the start line. And then they find out that no, they have to do it on the clock start. Or so that's something NREs really should, directors should really think about, is please publicize. If you're not going to do it, I don't have a super problem with you. I'd kind of prefer that you did, but tell us, put it in the event notes or the bulletin.
Yeah, that's a good point. Blake, do you have another?
No, that was my question. How much
Yeah.
ahead of time? Because I've seen a couple of places where they say, okay, you get the map for 60 seconds before your clock starts,
Right.
or
Yeah.
something like that. But I hadn't heard this particular rule. I wasn't aware that this was kind of a regular thing for white and yellow.
I want to add something. There was some concern at an event I was at where they didn't want to show other competitors the map ahead of time. And so they weren't showing it to parents. They were letting the kids look at it. And if they had any questions, they could talk to one of the event volunteers and ask questions. But that was out of concern of what I think Ted was getting at, is if you post them the maps or give the maps out ahead of time, then everybody gets to see the map, and not everybody's a parent of a kid, so they don't get to see the map. And so then there's unfairness in that.
Right. I think the idea with posting them is that like anyone can look at it if they want.
Right.
So then everybody gets that. And if you make the scale big and you crop the map that you're not showing people
right
all the terrain. I get that concern. I think that if we're trying to spark joy in our youth and keep them orienteering, that's pretty important. I wouldn't be worried about it for anything. I mean, obviously junior nationals is a little different, right? But I wouldn't be that worried about it for my big events if everybody gets to see the white course the day before. That doesn't really feel like it ruins the fun for the advanced runners. But
I guess I should have asked that first. Are we talking about strictly the map or the map with a course on it?
It's true that it doesn't say, but it is generally the course map, like their map. They usually get it in
course
advance.
Map or the yellow
yes,
course
a white
map.
course map or a yellow course map. Yep.
I got you.
And I think 60 seconds or 2 minutes actually might just add stress. I don't know. I think that the whole point is that they get it and they can ask questions, right? And like maybe talk to somebody, and I think they'll get a lot more out of it rather than, so they have 60 seconds to stare at it and be like, oh no, I don't know what that is. You know, like I don't know that that's that helpful.
Yeah, well, 1 or 2 minute intervals just easier logistically to implement, because they have the start corral and they go through the stations. Every 2 minutes, the buzzer sounds and you move to the next station. So you just pick up your map, and then when the clock says move to the next station, then you're off. Right? That sort of makes it consistent for everybody. They pick up the map and they have, X interval to look at it before they go.
So
yeah, and I was
going to say, for an event that has a large youth population, like we just ran a JROTC where there were kids starting every minute. You can't easily do that there, but their coaches know that, and they know that that's how it's going to go. But at a typical NRE, you have very few people on white and yellow, and the solution can sometimes be that people on white and yellow don't get pre-assigned start times, so they get to the start. They can look at it however long they want, and then when they're ready, they start. Yeah. And if you've got 6 people on white, that's going to work. You got 60 people on white, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I'd say another. I swear I've been to an event recently where people were given that like you checked in the morning, and then all the white competitors got their maps then, and that way they could sit down with their parents or whatever. And obviously that works best if it's a map everyone's seen. They've run it on before, or whatever. It's not new, but yeah, the rule allows for for judgment here, but I do want to make sure everyone who's organizing NREs knows about this rule, because we've had cases where parents expected their child to be able to see the map, and the kid just shows up and has to just go, and they're flustered because normally at their local events they get to see the map. I think this is obviously an NRE rule, but definitely for local events, let people see the maps, let them ask questions, talk to them before they go out. They'll have more fun. All right. Any more questions about this? This is actually one half of one rule. It's a second sentence in a 2-sentence rule. All right. All right. So continuing on with how to design your white course, you got to start in a good place. You've got your first control real close, preferably visible from the start. Your start is lined up on a trail or road so that they'll go that way. Now the rest of your course, you want to stay on obvious handrails. Usually trails. It doesn't have to be. If it's a really clear fence line or I don't know, a really clear stream, those could be used. Okay, but you try, if the terrain allows, to be on these things all the time. Your legs should be short. I have here 200 meters. That's just a rule of thumb. I mean, obviously, maybe if we have really high visibility here in Arizona, but it still takes time to travel. So, probably not too much more than that. And this is a line from Sandy: beginners need frequent and positive reinforcement. I don't know about all you, but like I really like instant gratification, right? Like I didn't finish. I started a PhD and didn't finish because I can't do that. I can't do years before I get something. But I like orienteering because every couple minutes I get something. Right? It's like, oh, I see this orange on my flag. So same with little kids, even more so, right? Like every couple minutes they see something. So for white, this is the part that makes it a white, that you have a control at every decision point. And we'll look at decision point, what that means on the next slide. That doesn't mean every trail junction or every time something crosses. It's every time a child would stop and say, wait, where do I go? Where do I go now? Right? At any of those moments, you need a control there. Control flag should be visible. On advanced courses, we want the orienteer to see the feature first and then the flag. But for a white course, we just put the flag right up where they're going to see it. And preferably also put it a few meters, just a couple, along the direction of where they're going to go. You need to think of the white course as like a guided walk, right? Or run, whatever, a guided route. You have this route that follows linear features, and you're guiding them around it. You can have so we have to have a control. You want to control at every decision point, but you can also have more controls than that if you need them, either just to add space or to give them a control on a feature that isn't a trail junction. You can have some along the way. And we have examples of all these. So here's an example of a decision point. So from control 2 to control 4, you need to make a right turn. You have a T junction, and you have to make a right turn. Now it's assuming that this is really a T junction, right? That's a place where if a kid were running along and they got here, that's the kind of place where they would stop and they'd be like, which way do I go? Put a control there. Put a control there, and then preferably put it right here, right? Oh, you guys can't see where I'm here. Put it right to the right. So as they go, they turn right to punch, and then they're already facing the right way. Now, you do want them to practice, orienting the map, but for the first ones especially, it's good to have them pointing in the right direction. All right, so there's a decision point. Here's an example of a place where there's a junction or a crossing. We have a stream crossing here. We have these little trails coming in, but this is a road, and we don't expect a white course runner I think there are a lot of kids who wouldn't even notice that there are trails on the side, right? They're just going to run right past it. So you don't need to control and things like this, because they're just going to keep going until they get to something. that's generally how it's going to go with kids. They'll run until they see something. And yes, we want to teach them to, read the map and thumb and all that. But like, first, we're just getting them to go through the mechanics, right? So there's an example of a leg with junctions, but no need for controls. In this example, we're on the minor trail crossing the road. And in this case, you probably want to control here, because as a kid comes and they hit the road from the trail, that is the kind of place where they might stop and be like, wait, what do I do? Yeah, so probably you want to control here, because they do have, it's a four-way junction. It's a big thing that's going to make them stop. Have a control here. And maybe put it even, I would definitely put it on this side of the road so they realize they see the trails. Maybe sometimes trails off the side of roads aren't obvious where they start. So you might really want the control right there where it starts, so they know, like, okay, oh, I see it. I need another dashed line. It's another trail. I need to go that way. And I see we had a question. If control 3 is placed off of the trail junction, would it, for example, be a bend in the trail? Right here? No, we're talking like 2 meters for the placement of the control in the right direction. So the description for number 3 would be trail junction. That's it. It can just be trail junction. It's just really literally a matter of where you hang it. So you're not gonna hang it usually like in the middle of the junction. You usually hang it like, in the little woods next to the trail junction. Just choose the little woods in the right direction. That's it. Bruce.
Yeah, in your third example there, 6, 7, 8, how would you handle it if you have to dogleg on the main road so that the 2 corners are like 20 meters apart? You can't sort of put 2 circles that close together. So how do you get them to make the dogleg? Because it's not a straight across intersection.
You mean from?
So at 7, if they had to say go north slightly to get onto the trail leading to 8.
Oh, I'm not sure I completely follow, but they would. I mean, once they get to here, they're going to see, even if the trails aren't connected, they'll see you put the control where that trail starts, and they'll see the trail.
So you mean if it's close enough that they can see the other intersection, they'll see to turn left, go up to where 8 starts off, and then. But 20 meters, it can be a little far down the trail.
2 meters. 2 meters.
Where it's 2 circles are just so close together. They're half overlapping each other. And how do you put 2 controls that close?
I'm not talking about. Yeah, I'm not sure I follow.
If it's not
saying if the map was different.
2 3-ways that are near each other. I
see what you're saying. If there were another.
Yeah, if to continue, you actually have to dogleg north on the main, like 20 meters, and then go to the right towards 8.
Oh, like
say north of 8, there's a yellow area with a bunch of trails, and you want them to turn right there.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And putting a second control there overlaps the circle.
Yeah, it makes it hard to read. Yeah. I mean, you'd have to look at the big picture and see if that's really the only thing you can do, right?
Yeah, I've tried to avoid it. I've run into this situation where the circles are half overlapping each other.
Right. Well, and that's an argument for you can.
Is that the way to do it? Just overlap the circles and put 2 controls, or is there some other way to deal with it, sort of like a dogleg where they have to make 2 decisions close together?
Yeah, I guess depends on the circumstances. I think you could do something slightly unstandard, make the scale pretty big, and don't make the circles as big, right? So that you can actually see them. I've seen beginner courses, where the circles actually do overlap, and they've just cut both circles, so it looks like a snowman. Yeah. So they were that close, right? Like 30 meters or something. I've seen that. It doesn't seem, as long as the kid, there's no chance they're going to go to the other one first, because they're running into the controls as they go. So you could have them so close so they almost overlap. Maybe see like this. Oh, sorry. The area that Sandy mentioned, this thing looks like a tough place to have a control, right? Just
You
in
would have to
general.
put it at the edge of the clearing on the trail they go down.
On the next one, yeah, on the next trail that you want them to do, probably. Yeah, you could always add when there's ambiguity, you can add streamers. Yeah, I think you said something about like having it be on a. I don't know if that was. Oh no, that was a different one. Yeah, you could have it. Just to not have them overlap too much, you could put the control further along the trail, make up some some bend,
marked route between the two controls.
and then have a little bit of streamer. I think some course setters would say that towards the end of a white course, that a single decision is okay, but I think every leg on a white should be white. So yeah, you'd have to have some solution. Either a little overlap. I think a little overlap on the numbers is okay. Just make it legible. Legibility is always the most important. So you could have a little snowman. And yeah, or like a streamered leg.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but yeah, unfortunately, orienteering maps are not always perfectly set up to support the 7 courses that we we want. So tough decisions. All right, some more considerations for white. Kids are short, so that can affect visibility, although usually with trails and roads, it's not a problem. If you ever have them, wouldn't recommend this following a power line or something in the sky. Kids don't look up, right? So they may have a hard time doing that. As far as making sure they can see things, especially on like a yellow when the controls are off the trail, you get down on your knees and see that you can see the things. Also get on your knees and make sure you can punch. If you're hanging from a tree, if the control stand is usually fine because they're usually quite short. But if you're hanging the controls from a tree and the kid is 3.5 feet tall, make sure that they can see the code, right? Teaching good habits and that they can actually reach to it to punch. So not up here, not way above their heads. So keep that in mind that you're setting courses for very physically different creatures than adults. Another thing, and this is not always possible, is to try to avoid having controls from other courses that might lead them off. On a white course, because you're doing every decision point, it's usually, often they're having controls all along the way anyway, but it's possible there could be other controls. This is just another example of where you want controls a decision point, because these are both major. Yeah, and this example, they also talk about, this is from the British guide, about like maybe 9 is a shared control. Maybe some other courses have 9. In which case you probably want to place it pretty neutrally, especially if like it's a yellow or something. You don't want to guide them off the wrong way. But generally you'd want to put it sort of in the direction, or sorry, I guess here, in the direction that you're going. All right, so that's basically a white course. See, I knew it was going to take longer. So basically, essentially a guided walk. Right? It's really hard to make it too easy. Right? It's very hard to make it too hard. Very hard. If someone says that it's too easy, they're wrong. Probably, it's not really possible. And every leg, okay, one leg can ruin a white course. This is an example from a Norwegian course setting guide of what they call an end course. And believe it or not, there's a trail going all the way to 1, single trail going all the way to 2. Those are ostensibly white legs. 3 to 4, decision point. I guess you could say, it's still kind of a white leg, white. But then you have this one here from 2 to 3. And I think this is a pretty obvious example of something that's not a white course. But the point is, this one leg ruins the course, because there will be kids who will never get there. They'll never get to 3. They don't get to do 4, 5, and 6 that are easy, because they won't do it. They don't know what the brown lines are. They don't know what the green is. They might think the cliff is a trail or a road. They might think these cliffs are trails and roads. They I think probably this stream hits this trail here. So, you know, like maybe there's a yellow style route around, but yeah. All right, so what I've done is I've taken somewhat randomly, I went and grabbed some white courses from events in the past year or two. There's no judgment on these courses. They're courses that I thought would be high quality because they're from good course setters and from clubs who know what they're doing. So I'm just posting them, and I want you to look at them and see whether you think that they uphold these guidelines for white courses. And here's some commentary. So hopefully we can keep this positive. The course setters are some, I don't know if any of the course setters are on this call, but it's entirely possible. So this is not about saying, oh, I can't, that leg looks totally inappropriate, and I can't believe they would do that with bad course setters there. It's more like, hey, does this course look like a good white course? And if not, like, hey, what could you do differently? All right, so we'll just take a look. This is courses in the wild. First example. This is from Larry Creek in Montana. It was not actually an NRE, but it was part of an NRE weekend. They were NRE quality the second day. So this is the white course. And I did include the descriptions because you can't really, it's hard to see on the map, but both 3 to 4 and 4 to 5 are streamer. They're the dashed lines, and they're written that way in the descriptions. That also, at the end here, it looks like 11 to 12. So, all right. Mike, go ahead.
I think, again, it's one thing that it's important, again, for the organizers to tell kids and their parent chaperones in advance that there are going to be streamered legs, because kids don't always look at the descriptions. They have the maps folded over, and from 3 to 4, you can't really even tell that it's a dashed line. From 4 to 5, they don't know what that dashed line means. They probably haven't been exposed to it too much at their local meets, if they've even done local meets. So I just mentioned that again, is telling people beforehand if they're going to be streamered legs that the kids are going to have to deal with, so that they know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to reiterate what Mike is saying, I would assume that kids are reading nothing. All right, like probably not reading the descriptions, maybe checking codes depending on how type A they are and how much that's being reinforced. And if they are reading descriptions, they may not know what that means. Follow tapes.
We had a couple of times that kids who had been raised with a foreign language at home wanted the symbols. They didn't know the English. Right. And I had a student, middle school, who was dyslexic. And again, we tried to have clubs put the symbolic descriptions available for him, because he would have had a whole lot of trouble reading that follow tapes 90 meters thing.
Yeah, that's actually a question. I'm not going to look it up right now, but somebody else can if they want. I know that the rules say that you need to provide written descriptions for white and yellow. I don't know if you're supposed to do symbol and, I always do symbol and words to let people start to learn, like at local events. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I think it's a good idea to always do both.
Yeah, I think it's a nice idea, even if it's not.
Even though not everyone's going to look at them. Yeah. One thing, I think I have this in a later slide, but if you are doing tapes like this, if you're streaming a route, not only should you tell them in advance, but it's good to have a sign at the control that says, white course, follow streamers to number 4, because they might not have read or heard anything before, and make it really clear. That also can help if other people run by the control and they're like, what are those streamers for? Then they see the sign. That doesn't help if the kid doesn't read English. That can happen in US events, or it doesn't read yet, right? If you have a very young kid, usually they've got a parent. But yeah, we have let's see, Amy asks, is another control needed between 9 and 10? Yeah, that's an interesting question. It looks like the main trail continues through this gate, maybe, but it is a little bit confusing. So I don't know if this would probably depend on what happens on the ground. Like if you are out there and you come across this trail and this little indistinct trail and this, if all these things look like side trails and you just go through the gate and none of the other ones tempt you, then it's probably okay. But if there's any doubt, then yeah, I think another control, right past the gate in the direction. Oh, you guys can't see I keep putting the mouse over there. Right past the gate down here wouldn't hurt if there's any ambiguity. I'm guessing the course setter didn't think that it was necessary. He's pretty thorough, but I don't remember. I was running very hard when I went through there. Blake says, I'm slightly concerned about having multiple of the target symbol within the control circle. Is responding to the specifier part of the clue something you expect on white? Which control 8? Oh, you're talking about there's lots of X's. There's lots of rootstocks.
Right, 3 rootstocks within the control circle. So you're specifying 1, but is that something a white
No, but
does not pay attention to?
But the control placement there is key. If the control placement is on the trail side of the middle rootstock, it doesn't matter. They're going to see the flag, punch it, and move on. But it's good for them, I think, if they're going over the course afterwards with a parent or a coach. What do they mean middle? And then they have a discussion about it. It's a way to learn. So I don't see anything wrong with it.
Yeah, there's also the one that there's also, if they have actually, they know what the green X, or if they have actually read the descriptions and they're like, oh, rootstock, and they are running along the trail and they see this first one, that's also good for them, right? That they realize, like, they see the rootstock, maybe they stop and they're like, oh, I don't have a control. Oh, that must be this first one. Oh God, I keep using my mouse in one place. It must be the first one, right? But yeah, the control on a white course, the control is always going to be visible and right next to the trail. So it doesn't matter that much that there's other rootstocks in it. It's nice to use something that's not a trail junction. Should there be decision points? So on a white course, you want, there are decision points, but you have a control at those. So like 6 is at a decision point where, like, if you did not have a control there, someone coming, 6 is, so if someone coming from 5 gets to here, they might, that's a place where you would have to make a decision, but you don't want white runners to make the decision. You just want them to have a guided route, right? So any place where they would be forced to have a decision, they don't have to make one. I've seen guidelines in the US that, oh, maybe towards the end you can have them have to make a choice. I think that maybe do it at your local courses to prepare people for harder to move up to yellow, but try to avoid it. Okay, is there a hand up that I don't see?
I had my hand up for a second. Hi there.
Hi.
I was just going to say, I'm going to assume that this road is not very heavily used by cars, but with the kids going out, I usually try to keep them off roads as much as I can.
Yeah. For context, this is a campground where the finish is, and I don't think that road is open to traffic.
Great.
Yeah. So that is a good point. That also, I didn't put it in. One more consideration for white is to try to avoid road crossings. And if you're going to have one, there should be someone there. Sometimes you have 7-year-olds running white courses by themselves. And if there's a road with traffic on it, you want somebody there to ensure that they're crossing safely. Because kids, they're just gonna blow through it. Yeah. Yeah, okay. We're spending, I think I have 2 more white courses, but we can go on to yellow since it's already 7:20. So this presentation will be available. You can take a look. Sandy will recognize this one. I just actually snipped this from LiveLock, so it's not as nicely arrayed. But that is a white course, and this is an example white course from Norway. So there are more ones that you can look at later. All right, so yellow. Let's move on to yellow. So this is the next step up. This is for 11 and 12-year-olds. So the skills we're looking at here, still orienting the map and following handrails, just like with white, but they're going to understand more symbols, not just the handrail ones. We want them to start understanding some of the symbols for point features in areas. This time, we're also looking for them to be able to recognize they've reached a decision point and that they have to make a decision. They have to make a decision. Do I go left or right, or do I continue straight? Do I follow this stream, right? They have to make that decision now. And also, their controls might be a little bit off the trail, might be 15 meters off the trail. Right? It might be on a little hilltop or next to, I don't know, a distinct tree or a boulder that's like a little bit of ways. It's not like they're not going to run right into it. They have to know I'm to look over to the right. It should still be visible from the trail, but it's going to be off the trail. So because of this, they usually have, I mean, the routes can be mostly different, and the control placements themselves are mostly going to be different because their journey around these mostly linear features is going to involve decisions, and you don't necessarily want them doing exactly what the white course is doing. And their control locations, their control features are also going to usually be different off the course. So generally pretty different from each other. So unlike a white course, which I said you really can't make too easy, a yellow course can be too easy. It can be too hard. Also, you guys get that like little Goldilocks thing. You got to make it easy enough that people with these skills can finish it, and but hard enough that they are getting training for orange, right? So the main distinction is this decision point thing. The yellow runners can make decisions at decision points. So here we have control 5, control 6. This is a north line here, not a ride or anything. So this is not a super difficult leg. They come out to a T junction and they make a left, and then they'll run into their trail. Right? On a white course, you would put a control here, but this is a yellow course, so you can leave it out. And you can make them, they have to know, they have to have their map oriented, they have to know which way they're coming from to go this way. That's the skill you're looking for. That's it. All right, don't overcomplicate what a yellow is. Here's another decision point, and this one is because in this case, the course designer has decided to put a control at the decision point because this trail is so indistinct that the feeling was that the runner would just, now of course they're going up here, so I don't know how hard they'd be going, but they would just blow right past it, right, and miss it. Maybe later in a yellow course that's okay, depends how indistinct this is. But in this case, they decided that the decision point is too hard, so let's put a control there. That's going to be depending on, you have to go out in the terrain and see what it really looked like. Sorry, what do you have to say?
So do we, are yellow runners required to know how to use the compass?
And on neither white nor yellow do we specify how they orient their map, right? So the qualification is that the skill is that they can orient with map or compass, with terrain feet matching or compass. Okay. Yeah. So you should expect them to be able to orient their map. And for a lot of kids, by the time they get to yellow, hopefully they can line up north, right? In case they get, disoriented with terrain. But yeah, but not like a bearing, orienting the map.
Mm-hmm.
For yellow, I assume in a case like that 4, you wouldn't insist on placing the control to lead them towards 5.
Correct. Yeah. And so in that way, you're allowing them to still have to know that they need to turn. So the control is stopping them from overrunning the turn, but then they still need to recognize, oh, I need to go on this little trail, right? But on a white course, you would probably put the control there so that they're facing that way. But on the yellow course, you can make them, you've already done the hard part for them. Now they need to do the thing where they turn to the right. We've seen this leg before. This was an example of a bad start for the white course. And so this was, is it exactly? Yeah, it is the same. So yeah, by placing the triangle here in the first example, it was down here, right? By placing it here and pointing them in the direction, it's totally fine. And this is fine for a first yellow control can also be really easy. You don't have to start off with something tricky. Just get them, because then they're lined up, right? If a kid, especially if they don't know how to use their compass yet, they're orienting just using the terrain. They know that their road is going this way and their map is lined up with the road. You start them going that way, and then their next decision is just based on that first thing. All right, and here's another example of not putting a control, right? This is an equal four-way junction. They get here, they need to recognize that they're at this intersection. Presumably it's not hard to see in terrain, and they need to know that they're turning right. So I'm making a distinction up here with the knowing that you need to make a decision is different than a route choice, right? There is a possibility for when you have controls like this, there may be a possibility for taking a shortcut, right? This is 5 to 6 on this map doesn't look like very much fun, but like, sure, right? When you have like turns like this, then you're opening it up for advanced yellow runners to start taking some shortcuts, and that's fine. But that should never be required, right? That they have to go through the woods. So these route choices are just really the chances to take shortcuts. You can plan for it, but also it's usually just a consequence of having some turns. Okay, so the British guidelines are very specific that you should not have more than 2 decision points in a leg. I don't know. Never heard anything like that for courses in the US. That's a discussion point. So this is considered 2 decision points. Sure, that's, that is definitely 2 specific turns I have to make, a right turn followed by a left turn. And here, that's considered too many because it's 3. I think if you went out there and this trail were big and you didn't even really see this one, that I wouldn't be too worried about that. This is definitely because you have to turn. That's a big deal. And this one also tees out, so you need to make a decision. So you'd have to kind of consider the terrain and whether that was appropriate or not with 3. So this is a solution they had. If you didn't want to have it 3, just add another control somewhere along the way. Again, you're using something that's not a junction. That's great. But I don't know that I would necessarily say a hard and fast rule of 2 is the max, but probably good to keep in mind. You don't want to give them like a skio leg where they have 8 turns to make. All right, so control placement. On a white, really visible, leading them the next way. On a yellow, you can have them on the trail also. But you should also put some 5 or 10 meters off the trail and get them exposed to other features, and also force them to look. They're not going to run into the controls anymore. You need to force them to know, oh, I need to start looking to my left. I need to start looking to my right. And looking for a knoll or a boulder or a ruin, something, right? They're learning more things. So after 2 years of running yellow courses, hopefully they've seen a lot of things, and that'll help them as they move up to orange. So in this example, they're examples of controls off this linear feature, this trail going to road. Is you've got this, I don't know, I guess that's the edge of a clearing, and they've got this building. So those are great. Those are examples of not a trail junction. And also see that they moved 5 used to be over here, and they've moved it around because this is a perfectly reasonable leg to go around like this. Yeah, one final consideration, I don't know if I have another example for that, is that, do I? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Make sure that if they have to go off the trail to punch, that when they come back, they can easily be oriented properly. So there shouldn't be it shouldn't be from a confusing location, like 8. They're coming along here and they run off to get it, and then they come back, and now they don't know which trail they're on. They don't know if we're on this one or this one, right? Because that is a little depression. So they go into depression and they don't know. So just be wary of that and where you place controls. So in this case, 9, also a depression, but you go in and you punch and you come back out and you know you're on that trail and you know which way you're facing. Ooh, 7:30 already. All right, we're gonna wrap up with yellow here. So your legs can be a little longer, especially if they have some turns, but try not to have them make turns and then it's a long way to their control because they want verification they've done it right. And be careful with controls on other courses. Let's just see what we got here. In this case, so these are two examples of like, what if your yellow course and your white course cross, right? It's okay. Your yellow and white, they share, in this case, they share control 6. White goes on to 7. They have this road to follow here. No problem. This trail is so small, they won't notice it. No decision points, keep going. Yellow, though, has this control. They have to know to stop and turn. That's fine. You can do that. In this case, white and yellow share 3. White's next control is at this decision point because you want them to turn. But yellow's is further on. In this case, a lot of yellow runners are going to stop, and hopefully they realize it's not theirs, right? That's a learning thing too. They see a control and they don't punch it. So that's okay too. All right, and so this I thought was a good summary of the difference between white and yellow. You've got a system of linear things like this. On the white course, assuming this is a nice big one, you're going to have a control at each of these turns. On the yellow course, you wouldn't. Now, I'm not saying you would do it and you would have them both overlapping, but this is the scenario of the difference between them. All right, I have yellow courses to look at. It is also 7:30. So I will stick around and we can continue looking at things. But I will not go beyond yellow courses. I will not go to the rest of the material because we've already covered an hour. I'll save it for some other thing. So anyone who wants to take a look at some of these yellow courses, maybe we'll hop back. We can look at white ones. It's only 7:30 in Arizona. So 9:30 for you East Coasters. This will be recorded and you can watch it later. So
you'll be able to make these examples available in the comments to the video as well, I think, won't you?
Yeah, I'll post links, all links to the resources that are in here. But I'll stick around right now and we can at least look at a yellow course too. Here. So this is an example from a Tahoe 4-day last year. I was not there. And this is a yellow course. So take a look and see what you think, if it seems like a suitable yellow course. Oh, there was a question earlier, I see, from Blake, or just now. He asked, do you ever hide the contours or other symbols on a white map to simplify it? Yes, I have examples of that. And actually, since we're talking about it, we'll come back to this. Why don't I show that? This is also from the Norwegian Orienteering Federation. They have suggestions of symbols you can remove from the map to make a cluttered map easier to read for beginners. And so these are the symbols that they suggest either removing or changing. So sandy ground, just change it to rough open, right? And bare rock, just change it to rough open. Get rid of little point symbols like water pits or whatever. So they have all these simplifications, and the result is you go from a super busy map to, well, it's still pretty busy, but it's a less busy map. So yeah, so that's totally a possibility, especially at local events. If there's, this, to most of us sitting here, this makes sense, but to someone who's new to orienteering, it's really just a bunch of gobbledygook, right? It's hard to put yourself back in the shoes of someone who's not familiar reading these maps, but there is a lot happening. And if all you're doing is following the trails, there's a lot of other distracting things on the map. And there is a link to this example here from the Norwegian Federation. Yeah. Okay. So any comments on the yellow course? Okay. Ted says it looks very congested. Yeah, it's a little bit here in 9, 10, 11, 12. You've got all these controls all clustered in. I'm not sure what the printed page looked like. I think this is from the PDF. So I think this is from the actual thing they printed with the cuts and everything. But as to how big it would be. How far off trail is number 1? Yeah, so number 1, this is like Burton Creek or something in Tahoe, where even the white woods are very like sort of high visibility, and this is in this area of open with scattered trees. So yeah, I don't think the intention was for yellow runners to follow. We didn't talk about this about open areas, but I think the intention was they'd be able to see the fence from pretty far and go to the fence corner. I don't know, having been there, whether it was appropriate, especially for first. Maybe it was visible from the start, and in which case it was a good first control. But if not, yeah, it might be too hard for the first control because there are trees in there. 1, 2, and 3 are too hard. Yeah, 2 is pretty tricky. These are small trails. I don't know. I mean, even if you followed the fence lines, like how would you know? I agree. I think 2 is pretty tricky. I think 3 might be legit, unless you count that as sort of, maybe 3 turns, but then also the control is off trail. Presumably, the control flag is placed to the southeast of the boulder, and it's this middle boulder. But 1, 2, 3, pretty hard start to the course. Going 5 to 6. You should be able to see the control from the road for 6. So yeah, I mean, you have to have some kind of sense of distance, but you'll be looking off to your right for the boulder. I think I missed one. Attack points for the yeah, is that the same for all these boulders? For all these ones, you should see the boulder and the control from the trail. Route choices be required for a couple of legs.
In general, one of the things that I tell kids is if the circle overlaps the trail, overlaps the feature, you probably can see the feature from the trail. Now, if the flag's on the other side of the boulder, that
right,
you might not see the flag, but you should see the feature, the boulder from the trail.
Yeah, and for yellow, I think you still generally want to have you want the kids to see the feature, but the flag is they're still seeing the flag, right?
Right. But even badly set, that's something I try to look at in course. More telling course setters than the kids is if you have the circle overlapping the trail, you don't want the control where it can't be seen from the trail. Down in a negative feature is all the discussion about pits and depression.
Yeah. We won't get into that. Yeah. But yeah. Okay, so good. So that should be 30 meters, right? The radius. Okay, go ahead, Cindy.
Well, I was just going to say, number 11, that boulder's sitting right on the trail.
Ooh. Yeah.
I would have no problem putting the flag on the side away from the trail for that boulder for a yellow course.
Because the boulder's right next to the trail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and for a white course, you want it on the trail side, but for a yellow course, I don't think you need to every time. I mean, number 3, probably because it's so far off the trail and there's these other boulders in the way. But for 11, yeah. I mean, I'd have to see the terrain to be sure, but.
Well, and also it's on the uphill side, so they might still get a glimpse of it wouldn't be hidden.
Right.
As they're approaching, they might see it behind the boulder. So that wouldn't be tricky. Yeah, you'd have to carefully consider. I mean, on advanced courses, it's pretty automatic. You put the control flag on the backside of the feature, but it's not automatic.
That's probably another place where you really want to consider that kid's eye view, that if you're putting it behind the control, you don't want it visible to the 5-foot 12-year-old, but not to the 3.5-foot 12-year-old.
3.5-foot 12-year-old. Oh man.
Yeah, well, getting the idea that there's a
or
lot
a
of
kid who's
things
running up.
besides
There
the
are, we have some, precocious orienteering 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds who might be running up, right? Or 10, 11. Okay, so this is
I was only
14,
3.5
13, 14.
feet when I was 12.
My 10-year-old's 5 feet, so I don't. Yes, these are all good things to consider. I don't think I know the course setter isn't here, and the course consultant is out doing a training with kids, as far as I know. So we can't hear from them about their rationale for some of these controls. But yeah, 1 to 2 seems rough for the beginning of the course. Because again, we see this and it seems real easy. You just go around all this stuff, right? But people who may not know what all this stuff is, and that these are big uncostable offenses, that's pretty tricky. All right, I'm gonna move. Do another yellow. What is this? This is
Randsburg.
Mike. This is
Flying
from your
Pig. Yeah.
event. Yeah, this is from the Friday of last year's Flying Pig. It wasn't here either. No comment on this one.
If nobody else is that, we had a separate start for white, yellow, and I think brown was separate from other courses, so that we could use the trail network for the white and yellow. Pretty easy first control, which is one of the things I like to see on white. Shin was the course setter, or no, Dylan Poe is the course setter for this one. Looks like definitely some choices of through or opportunities to shortcut if desired.
Yeah, I see the comment about 8 to 9. I think most yellow runners would see this as a trail run.
Maybe take that little cutoff too.
And maybe, yeah, and this little. So it seems like an appropriate yellow leg because there's a very clear yellow route to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a good chance for people to figure out what's worth doing if they've got some experience and they want to try cutting somewhere. Oh my gosh, this scrolly mouse thing. I don't know. Let's go back to that. Yeah, so I think 8 to 9 is a good yellow leg. It's actually an example of what, it's a good setup because it's a little bit, you have to go kind of past the control on the trail. It does offer a chance to try something a little different. Now I saw a comment, Ted, you said something about dog leg on number 5. Because you would come in presumably from this trail and then come back out again, I think is what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. So we didn't talk about this. This is a general course setting principles to avoid dog legs, where you enter and exit from the same direction, because that lets other people know. It's uninteresting, but it also lets other people know where the control is as you're coming out, especially if it's a long way in and out. I don't know what the specific thinking on this one is. I guess the idea maybe was that some kids would try to just go straight, and so there would not be so many kids doglegging. But for sure, you want to come back out this way.
Why not going? Which way is that? West to the building. I can't tell if those clearings connect or not.
It doesn't look like a connect. I mean, I feel like the only way out that's logical is out here. That doesn't mean that kids will do that.
Right.
But
mean, if it's a big building, there's like building, go to the building.
Building, yeah, but you're going maybe a little up, right? So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
What are ways we could if we thought that was going to be a real dog leg and we wanted to change it, what could we do with 5?
Could just get rid of it.
Yeah. That's the first thing I thought of.
4 to 6 is fine.
4 to 6 is a perfectly reasonable yellow leg.
Yeah.
Right. So you could just get rid of it. You could put it, if you needed another control, you could put it on this tree so they have to, look for a tree in an open area. Or so I don't know. It's probably okay unless you had like a conga line, tons of kids going there. Yeah, Ted's the lone tree in the field. Yeah, that was a possibility.
Again, this was an event where we might have had 5 people on yellow course.
Right.
Yeah,
so dog leg.
Green or, with 40 people, you'd be worried about dog legs if you had a person every 2 minutes. But
yeah, and I want to emphasize again that I picked these courses. I just went. I'm sorry.
For what?
Dalia,
For a dining hall? This is for.
Hey, Dalia, can you mute, please? I can't mute you. Okay, good. Yeah, and I picked these courses just for discussion purposes. We're not saying that course setters did a bad job. This is just like, hey, let's just sit in our chairs and learn and critique. So,
and definitely,
yeah, maybe the dog leg is not
potential dog leg there. I think that was even discussed probably in the course review process. And
I want to say that I really like number 7 because it looks like it's supposed to be in that reentrant, but very visible from that clearing trail, whatever is there.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see. And I like getting yellow courses onto, other kinds of features. So into the reentrant is good as, assuming you can see it easily or get to it easily from that field. I can't tell what's at the end of the trail.
Looks like there's a little building there.
Is that what that is? I can't tell.
I don't know. If I can...
That's it. Don't worry about it. But
yeah.
The building's there, so they know they've gone too far if they get to the building. So it's perfect. It gives them a strong feature to say, turn around and look for the reentrant. Even if they don't know that they're looking for a reentrant, it's turn around and look for the flag.
Right. And then they go home and they're like, what is a reentrant?
Right.
Yeah, so I missed. There were some comments here about, well, if they do this, then they're doglegging to 10, but there's a trail that goes all the way down here for 9 to 10. So yeah, I think for sure some yellow competitors will go around, but I don't think that's as that's not as problematic from a dogleg perspective as far as finding the control, because the control's right on a trail, right? There's not like moving off the trail to find it, so it's not like you're clued in. But yeah, there is this option here. It's kind of nice because you have this obvious yellow route this way, but if you see this trail, you can take that. All right. We don't need to look at another yellow course. Oh, you all are still here, so I'll keep talking. Start locations. This was an example from an NRE this fall. I was course consulting for it, and they changed this. When I received the courses, the white had its own start. It was great on a trail next to a lake going in one direction. And every other course, including yellow, was starting up on this hill in this little clearing. And you can see that the courses go off in many directions to the north and west. And then the yellow did
turns
this.
Around.
Yeah. And so I was like, you're going to have a bunch of kids who are really confused because everyone else is running in these directions and they can't see this where they're going, right? They're over here. They can't see these trails. And so they moved the start to where the white start was. And I think they came right up this hill and used this control afterwards, right? It was like a second control in the course. Really good solution for that one. I would be worried about a situation like this where you have everyone else is doing something different from the white or yellow. Okay, I could save the rest of the things I have for another time, unless people are really interested, and I could keep going. Is 30 of you still here? Any requests?
I mean, it's impressive how much audience you've held, but I think we should probably save it
It
for
is
another
almost
time.
it's almost 10 o'clock for East Coasters, so
Yeah, it's past my bedtime.
we can call it. It's almost past my bedtime, and I'm 2 hours west. Great. Well, thanks for everybody then for joining us for this. We'll put the recording on YouTube. I'll link to the slides from the YouTube in the YouTube description, and let's see. I think there are there's some links to the things that I stole materials from in here. And that's it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We have more
I guess-
comments.
it's-
Yeah.
I
We
don't
can stop
think
the recording. I
anyone's
can
going to
keep
come
answering
up with a
questions.
question now, probably.
I
So
do
thanks,
have
Christina.
several questions. I do have several questions. One was about a comment about drafting. It's true that trails aren't always joined properly, but a bigger one was adults, beginners. I actually do have an answer a little bit for that. What I'll say really quickly is that it's difficult to place adults on the beginner courses because they often have a great mismatch between their navigational ability and their physical ability. And our courses aren't really designed for that unless you design a course specifically for that. And also, people often way overestimate the navigational abilities. So a good option, I'm not a fan of running score courses. I don't find them that much fun, but they're a great option for beginners, especially adult beginners who may have map reading skills. So what we do with a lot of our events is have an explorer course. So we do an all controls map. So it has controls on trails, it has controls way out in reentrance. And you just give them that and you're like, hey, and that way they find as many controls as they want and can, and they are successful. They have completed a course, no matter how many they find. 3 controls, they're good. 10 controls, they're good. And that way you can also kind of assess and talk to them and be like, okay, next time you could do the intermediate course or the orange, whatever you've got. So that's one good way that I like to deal with adult beginners, because we have a lot of adult beginners in the US. Most people aren't starting at 10. So.
Can your event organization, particularly the results software, accommodate that easily?
Yes, we mostly use SI Droid, which allows for mixed courses.
Yeah,
I can have score courses and point to point and courses that have both in together. MIOS supports that as well.
Yeah, apparently OE 2010 doesn't easily.
Doesn't surprise me.
Adding a score course to a bunch of classic courses makes it a more complicated event for the people handling that to run, unfortunately. So they're a little reluctant.
Yeah, I've heard a few people that mentioned that the timing thing was what was, yeah. I mean, you usually don't have like a ton of people doing this. I mean, it wouldn't be that hard to manually, in your results listings. I guess most people just do a PDF export, right? So, yeah. Mike.
Yeah, a couple things with solving that. We have done, an OE and an OE score where we have a separate download unit for the score course, but they're both running simultaneously on the same computer. And you just need to have the download units really clearly marked, the other thing is if you just have people doing an Explorer course, you could use one of these standalone like schoolyard download stations for the score. And it doesn't do code checking, but it tells whether they got 10 or 12 or 14 or however many they found.
Yeah.
Couple options to handle that, but yeah, it does with OE. It is a little bit of a nuisance, let's say, to try and run both a regular event and a score course simultaneously. But we've done it effectively, so it can be done.
Yeah, if you end up having 2 stations, you need 2 computers then too, right? Or do you just have 2 stations, 2 COM ports running to do different?
2 COM ports,
2 COM ports, 2
instances. You have both programs running. You have OE and OE score running simultaneously.
Okay. And I'll also say it's easy now in live locks. You just have you upload your courses, and then you make a class and you choose row gaining as the course,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, and then it just uses all the controls. So it's easy enough for us to do that too. Not that most beginners who show up aren't necessarily tracking the runs to put it on live logs, but we have adventure racer types, people who like to adventure race, who prefer the score option, who will do Explorer too. So we do have advanced orienteers choosing it, and they'll post the routes. So. Okay, someone says it is easy. Apparently, you could import a classic and score from, say, Candice, right, and then import them into OE, and it sets it up correctly. Well, for those of you who use OE, you can give that a try.
Yeah, and that may need the new OE for those that are using like 2010. I don't know if I have to take a look if that works in there.
Yeah. Okay, and with that,
Good night. Thanks, Christina.
Really going to let people go. I promise I won't say more. You can leave. You won't miss anything.
Thank you, Christina.
Good night, everyone.
All right, thanks for joining.